here today to talk to us about ERM module for Koha from PTFS Europe in England is Jonathan Field. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, can you hear me okay? Good. Right, thank you very much, and thank you so much for inviting me here. I could have gone to Marseille this week. 15 degrees, beautiful weather. I've come here, it's -4, snow on the ground. But it's no, it's a real pleasure to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me to talk about ERM, the ERM module in Koha. So we're very excited about it. Obviously, historically, you're probably familiar with holding information in Excel spreadsheets and access databases and in paper files. And some of you may even have used some of the open source tools like Coral and Cuffs over the years. We certainly have worked with some of those. We always felt there was a lack of integration with those tools, and that's really why we decided last year to focus on trying to add some ERM functionality into Koha itself. So this project was a project that we undertook with BibLibra and with Bywater Solutions. And the majority of the work was done by Jonathan Druart, who works on our behalf in the Koha community. And we're excited because it really moves Koha up a level from being a library management system to being a sort of library services platform. And even our small libraries, every library these days has some electronic resources of some sort or other. So we think it's important. You may have noticed in the Koha release notes last November that the minimal viable product, the core functionality for ERM was added to Koha at that version. That's what I'm going to show you in just a moment. So the main bits of functionality we added really are agreements, licenses, and e-holdings. That's what we're focused on for now. I'll talk a little bit about what we're working on at the moment as well. So agreements is really allows you to store what you subscribe to, and licenses allows you to store the documents, as you'll see in just a moment. The e-holdings, these are the resources yourself. So we've built a system that allows you to hold your own local electronic resources, but will also integrate with EBSCO's holdings database via their Holdings IQ tool, and we'll see that again in just a minute as well. It's also quite exciting in that it's the first use of Vue.js, the JavaScript framework in Koha, so potentially that opens up the possibility in the future for using Vue for some other parts of Koha. It's a more modern framework, so that's quite exciting as well. Right, let's just go and have a look at what we've got here. So the first thing to say is in 22.11, you'll notice under the system preferences, there's a new tab for e-resource management. And that importantly allows you to enable or disable the module. And aside from that, that's pretty much all there is, apart from a link. You can add your details for your EBSCO holdings if you have those. There are also some new authorized values. So there's a lot of places where there are controlled vocabulary. So we've got quite a long list there, and you'll see these lists pop up as we start looking at the ERM. And there's a new link on the home page and a new menu link as well. So if we go into e-resource management, you can see that we've really got agreements, licenses, and e-holdings. So the way I think of agreements is agreements really describe what you have access to, whereas licenses really describe what you can do with those resources. So the contracts behind them that determine what you can do with those resources. So that's the distinction. You can actually use agreements on its own, without the licenses, and you can also use licenses on its own without the agreement. So whether you choose to use them together or separately, that's really up to you, as you'll see in just a moment. So if we just have a look at agreements to start with. So as I say, agreements describe what you can access, so which packages, which journals you have access to. You'll notice there's a little filter on the top here. This just allows us to perhaps look back for agreements that have expired. So if I just go back to the end of last year, we can see there's a few there that have been cancelled and have actually expired. But let's just have a look at this ACM Digital Library Journals. So this is an agreement record. It links through to the vendor record in Koha. So there's a link through to acquisitions. We've got a description. We can see it's active. And we've got agreement periods. So you can have multiple agreement periods. So you can have last year's, you can have the current year, you can perhaps have next year as well. And you can also attach users to agreements, and they can take on different roles. So the reason behind this is somebody might be in charge of perhaps authorizing the budget in the first place, and somebody else might be in charge of activating the subscription, and somebody else might be the subject librarian for that area. So you can have multiple roles attached to the agreement. And then you can attach agreements back to the license record, and that's where the electronic copy of the license is held, as we'll see in a minute. But I'm just going to edit this one just so we can have a look at the form. So you can see some of these are drop-down values. So these are all the authorized values that you saw just now. And here you can see are the agreement periods. So you can see we can add more agreement periods as the years go on. We've also got a single agreement user there, but we can add new agreement users again and select users from there. In order to be attached to a license record or an agreement record, you have to have a permit. There's a new permission for ERM, so you have to have that permission in order to be attached to an agreement or a license. And then at the bottom, we can attach the agreement to the license record. So this is where the two records link together. So as I say, you can use them separately if you want to. So you'll see at the bottom here, there's actually a link to attach a document to this agreement record. So perhaps if you didn't want to use the licenses, you could actually attach the license agreement here. But this really is designed for linking perhaps correspondence with the vendor, and other sort of electronic records you might want to keep. There's also the facility to link agreements together. So if I just go back and have a look at journal archives here, you can see this link is related to the GIST transitional agreement. And you can see if I click through to that record, the journal archive supersedes that agreement. So again, it's just to give you this historical record. The other thing we can see here is which packages are attached to this agreement. So this is important because this is actually what does the agreement cover? What's it actually a subscription for? So you can see this agreement actually covers 2 EBSCO packages. And we'll see in just a minute how those are linked together. Let's go and have a look. Let's have a look at the licenses. So you saw just now that we had a matching license record for ACM Digital. So if I just click into that, you can see, again, you have some statuses, whether it's active or not. We can have license users. So I'm the ERM librarian on this particular license. And here we have links to the actual documents itself. So any PDF documents or Word documents or Excel documents you want to attach to the record, you can upload those and store them in Koha. So if I just edit this record again, we can just have a look in a bit more detail. Here are the documents at the bottom, and you can see that we can add additional documents. The other thing you can see here is that as well as the link to the PDF or Word document, you can also record where there's perhaps a physical copy of it. So the physical copy may be still in a filing cabinet or in the librarian's desk. But there could also potentially be an online version of the license as well, so you can link out to that if you want to. So there's a few different ways of attaching the license records. Okay, let's just talk about holdings now then. So it's optional whether you use EBSCO's knowledge base. I mean, we have a lot of customers who do subscribe to it. That's one of the reasons we added it. But you can also record local holdings as well. So any local holdings, when you create new holdings, the form that you see here is based on KBART2, the metadata structure for e-holdings. So I think there's all the KBART2 fields there. Some, again, are controlled values, like the publication type. So if we have a look, perhaps, at this one here, you can see that this is the bibliography of British and Irish history. When you add a title to your local holdings, it also automatically creates a bibliographic record for you. So if you want to display those records in the online catalogue, you can do. So if I just click that, you can see there's a very basic bibliographic record. So it will try and create a record with as much metadata as you enter in the form. You can also see this title is part of a package. So you can package the titles together. In this case, this is part of a package called British History, which has got a few titles in it. And if I just go back and just edit this title record, you can see there is all the KBART metadata. And at the bottom, here is the package. So again, we can add it to multiple packages if we want to. If it's part of multiple packages, we can add it to multiple packages. We've also got a nice little facility here where we can import records from a list in Koha. So using the Koha list facility, we can add MARC records or basic bibliographic records to a list, and then bring that list into Koha as an electronic resource. So if your electronic resource provider can give you MARC records for your electronic material, then you can quickly get them in as electronic titles without having to create the metadata manually. Okay, let's just have a look at the packages. So packages really group titles together. So again, we've got a small package here called the Grove Online Packages. So this is for the Grove Dictionary of Music and Art. And you can see that as part of this package, we've got three titles linked to it. And if I just edit this package, you can see that, again, it's got some controlled vocabulary, but this is the place where we can now attach this package back to an agreement record. So when we were in the agreement record, you saw that there were some packages attached. That's how it's linked together. Let's just have a look at the EBSCO holdings. So the EBSCO holdings is quite different. It uses the holdings IQ API that EBSCO provide. That's a bidirectional API that allows you to update the knowledge base from other sources. So for example, the Coral ERM can use it to manage and import holdings into Coral. And we're using it really as a proxy service to view the holdings library database. So anything that I change in Koha will automatically be updated in EBSCO admin. And if anything's updated in EBSCO admin, you'll see it in Koha straight away. So it's a nice bi-directional link. We can filter using some of the EBSCO provided facets as well. So if we only want to look at titles I've already selected, I can narrow it down. But you can see here that there's little check boxes down the side here. So these means that we've already selected these titles within EBSCO's holdings knowledge base. And if I just click on one of those, you can see this title tetrahedron is part of part of 91 different packages that EBSCO provides. So again, we can see these check boxes here. So we can see that we actually subscribe to this as part of Science Direct, not as part of any of these other packages. So if we have a look at Science Direct, we can see the complete package. We've also got these buttons at the top here where you can add and remove titles from the holdings. So this is where it uses the API to talk to the global knowledge base at EBSCO to remove the titles and add the titles to the holdings. So it's all real time and it's all reflected back into Koha, which is nice. So if I remove it here, then it'll be gone in EBSCO admin. If I click through to the package record, you can see that as part of this package, there's 51,000 titles. So that's why we provide some filters here to sort of narrow down the search. So we just searched it, tetrahedron. There we go, that's narrowed it down. And we've got a few titles there with tetrahedron in the title, but it's narrowed down the search. And again, we can remove a complete package from the holdings. So we not only an individual title, we can take the whole package out or add a whole package in. So it's quite flexible. One thing you'll also notice is as I sort of navigate between the various modules within e-resource management, the link on the left-hand side changes as we move around. So you always sort of know where you are in the in this sort of structure here. Okay, and it's important to say the information from EBSCO is never stored in Koha's database. So obviously there's something like 13 million titles in EBSCO's knowledge base. So we never store them locally in Koha. We just know within Koha what is subscribed to and what isn't subscribed to. So really it's acting as a proxy service, if you like, to the knowledge base. And I'll just finally just do a search here on journal archives. And just find this one here. And the reason I wanted to show you this one is there's 877 titles in this, but you can see this is where the EBSCO package is linked back to my agreement record that I showed you earlier. So if I click on that, there's the agreement record, which covers EBSCO's just journal archives and the Oxford Journal Archives as well. So again, that's how the EBSCO packages link back to the agreements. Okay, so that's what we've done so far, and all of this is in 22.11. What we're doing at the moment is we're actually now working on phase 2 of this project. So I just wanted to talk a bit about phase 2. And in fact, you are the first people to see this. Nobody else has seen this. So this is what we're doing at the minute. So we've been cleaning up some of the code from 22.11. We've fixed some bugs. We're adding some more links into acquisitions, which I'll show you a screenshot of in just a moment. So obviously there's a direct link between vendors who provide electronic material and these e-resource records. So we're trying to hook the Koha vendor records into e-resource management. We're adding some more granular permissions. I'm hoping that's one of the bugs that will be signed off at Hackfest. So you'll be able to determine whether individual staff members can view or delete records. So it's just a bit more granular. As part of 2211, we wrote a very comprehensive set of documentation, which you may have seen in the Koha manual for 2211. What we forgot to do is add the links into Koha. So we've gone back and now added the links into the ERM manual. But this is the important part that we've been working on. We've been working on adding usage statistics, and this is the real added value of electronic resources. And it's important because electronic resources are expensive, so they cost a lot of money. So you need to know who's been using them, how well an individual title is used. So that's what we're trying to do here. So we've added usage providers. So these can be publishers, providers, platforms. We've built a sushi harvester. So sushi is the protocol that's used to create a web service to a publisher to extract counter statistics. We've added the ability to store the counter files and then start to display those and report on those. At the moment, we're focusing on counter 5 because most of the publishers are supporting counter 5, but we may have to go back and do some counter 4 for some of the older publishers who haven't quite implemented counter 5 yet. But yes, here's some screenshots. So this is what we're doing with the sushi harvester. So the ERM, there's now a new API that is called when you say harvest now. And that builds a sushi connector, which goes out to the publisher's sushi service. The response from that is some JSON output, and that builds the counter files. So in Koha, we store a log of what happened with the publisher. So the fact we went and asked for a file. We store any titles that came back as part of that response. And then in these monthly and yearly statistics table, we store the counts of how many times these titles are used. Now, if the publisher doesn't support sushi, but they can give you counter files, then there's an option to manually import to counter file just by clicking a button. And there is also a cron job, a new cron job that we've added. And what that does is it can run periodically, say once a month, and go back and harvest the statistics automatically for all the platforms that you've set up. That stops you having to just keep pressing the run now button. So this is what we've built. So there's a new a new menu down the left-hand side here for data providers and reports. So we've added the ability to add a new data provider. So that's a publisher who supports sushi. This is what the data provider record looks like. So we've got a description, whether they're active or not. So do we want to harvest data or don't we want to harvest data? And then the sushi connection credentials at the bottom there. And then there's 3 other tabs along the top there: titles, manual upload, and import logs. So if we just edit the provider record, you can see that we can specify the report types that the provider supports. So there's quite a large number of counter reports that you can ask for. And we're basically we've started with the popular ones, and we'll work through them eventually, but we're starting with the popular ones for now. But you can, within the provider record, you can say which files to go and get. Once you do an import, you get the titles that have come back from the counter file, so including their DOIs, the ISSNs, and the EISSNs, and that's stored as part of the provider record. As I said, if the user doesn't provide a sushi endpoint, you can manually update counter files. So that just that does exactly what the harvester does, but it does it manually with a file upload, as you can see. If you want to manually run the harvester, there's a Run Now button. So if you just want to go and get the statistics without the background job doing it, you can run now. And when you press run now, it asks, are you sure you want to run this harvesting job? And we can say yes. And that'll bring the titles and the statistics back into Koha. And then the exciting part really is the reports tab. So we're building a reports interface within ERM that will allow you to drill down into those statistics in various ways. So there'll be different report types. We can look at it on a month-by-month basis or on a yearly basis. We can focus in on individual titles, or we can focus in on all the titles for a particular provider. And this is what comes out at the other end. So this is the counter data formatted in a format that you can read it and also export it again if you want to. So you can see year by year, we've got month by month counts for this, total item counts for all the titles that have come back as part of that sushi harvest. So that's very exciting. These are real screenshots of our development system, and this is coming close to being finished. We're really hoping it'll be in 2305, all things being well. And as Paul mentioned just now, they're talking ERM at Hackfest. I think they're going to sign off on some of these bugs. We've got 2 developers working for PTFS Europe who are working on this right now to try and finish it urgently. So yes, we think it's exciting. The one other thing that's happening I mentioned is we are adding some extra bits to acquisitions. So in acquisitions, you'll be able to view the licenses from the vendor record, and you'll also be able to add interfaces to the vendor record as well. So where you might have an online acquisitions platform or an administrative interface, and you want to store the credentials of those, you'll be able to store those in Koha attached to the vendor record, which again is quite nice. There's other stuff we can do. We'd like to add a task management, sort of workflow management element to this, but we want to do that more broadly. We think it would fit more broadly. It could work in cataloging, it could work in circulation. So we haven't started on that. That's something we'd like to do. There's other knowledge bases apart from EBSCO's, as we know. So there's the global knowledge base. In the UK, we have a knowledge base called KB+, which is very popular, which we will add. You may have knowledge bases of your own. I think National Library of Sweden are working on an open access journals project, aren't they? So maybe there'll be another database that you can connect to. If it's got an API, you should be able to add it, essentially. So I think we could add more knowledge bases. We've had the request to have the ability to allocate license seats to users. So where you maybe buy 25 licenses and you want to allocate them to members of staff, that's something else we'll add maybe. And possibly an A to Z journal list as well in the online catalogue. But I'm sure you've got other ideas as well. There's a lot more we can add to this. So we're very excited. We were very excited about the usage statistics in particular. We think that's going to be a big enhancement that will be really popular. So I think, yes, I think that's all I wanted to show you today. So I don't know whether you've got any questions on anything.
Yes. Do we have any questions for Jonathan?
I will actually be around until mid-morning tomorrow anyway, so you're very welcome to come and talk to me.
Yeah. We have one question here.
Hello. Yes. One clarification. Did I understand you correctly that there's no view for the end user, like the student or the researcher?
There's no view for the end user at the moment, no. Well, obviously, if you're managing the EBSCO knowledge base, then the end view is really EDS. EBSCO's EDS, that would be, because you're manipulating the knowledge base as you update holdings in Koha, the knowledge base in EBSCO EDS is getting updated at the same time. So that would be their view. If you've got local holdings, we're adding those short bibliographic records to the catalogue, but it's not really distinguished between what's electronic. It's just another catalogue record at the moment. No, but that's something we perhaps would like to look at a bit further. That's why we'd quite like to do an A to Z journal listings, because we think that would fit well with this.
Thank you.